what I'm doing, but I'm here now. Hello everyone, all the people here, all the millions of people, even trillions of people I don't even know anymore. How are you? I'm alright. So, it is Sunday again. It's Sunday. It's nearly February. It's quite cold. It's quite damp. I went out yesterday for the first time in ages again for a Burns night supper. A Burns night supper. Where's the camera? There it is. I put my little phone on upside down. Hello, Philip. I went to a Burns night supper. Have you done Burns night recently? There's not whiskey involved. Didn't really drink much whiskey, which is just as well because I would have had a terrible hangover. And I didn't have a terrible hangover, but I tried 2 different types of whiskies. And there was hundreds of them around there. Actually, I went to a Burns night supper about 4 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And at the end of the day, they gave away the bottles of whiskey that were left. And I took 2 home. And the last Burns supper, I took one of them back again. And this one, which is like 4 years later. So I didn't get through an awful lot of whiskey in all that time. It had been opened. But it was, hello, Ollie. It was there. So that was there. I didn't try any of it. I tried something that somebody else had brought it to. Oh, couldn't you? Yes. Hello. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. And so I had one that didn't really taste very nice, and then some Glenmorangie, which is a bit boring, but it was there, and it was only a tiny, teeny little thing. And I got haggis, a vegetarian haggis that the host had very kindly made. It was gorgeous and delicious. And I actually did eat some of the meaty haggis, which I've had before, because it was like, I'm going to take a day off from vegetarianism and do all of it today. And then I was like, it's not as exciting as I don't mind haggis, but it was like, oh, I just have the vegetarian one. It was fun. So I did have the meaty one, but then I had the vegetarian one because I realised that actually I should have just stayed with it. And I didn't eat much of the mashed potato, and I did have the neeps. I like neeps, and I've actually got a Swede, a turnip. Somebody said, why are they called neeps? You'd think they'd be parsnips. I'm like, turnips, and they're like, oh yes, that's what it is, a turnip. So I've got one downstairs that I got in a stew packet that was reduced at the end of the day in Tesco a couple of weeks ago, so I'm probably going to use that. But I did see a thing where you can stick holes in it and bake it like a baked potato in the microwave. It doesn't taste bad. Haggis is alright, I like it, but to be honest, the vegetarian haggis was nicer and there was more care put into it. So that was the one that I think in the future. And then he sent the recipe to everyone afterwards so that we can all make it for ourselves. And it's very nice, very nice. It's got lentils and things in it. Lentils and portobello mushrooms, which are very nice. And I don't know whether portobello mushrooms are Italian mushrooms or from Portobello in Edinburgh. I've not really looked it up. I should probably look that up and try and work it out. Yes, the veggie one was much nicer, and I'm just like, I regretted it. Somebody said, aren't you a vegetarian? I'm like, not today. I'm going to do all of the meats. They also had kokoliki soup, so... And then I had the soup, and I wasn't really very full for anything else after that. So I was like, yeah, that was a mistake. So I've learnt my lesson, and I don't think in the future that I'll be going down the haggis route, not the meaty haggis route anyway, because it's not worth it. But the lamb was already dead. So, and I gave one of the toasts. I've given different toasts in the past. In the past, I've given the one for the memory of Rabbi Burns. I can't remember what it is. That toast. I've done the laddies 2 or 3 times, and I did the lassies one for sort of changing it up. And last night I was like, just give me whatever's left, and whatever's left was the laddies one. And I thought, oh, because you're supposed to write like stereotypical things about the gender that you're, laddies or lassies. The lassies say, oh, women, oh, these are all the things that are annoying, but we love them anyway. And then the laddies, you go, oh, men, and I was like, I can't be bothered with that. So I did a sort of deconstructed version that was just defining what laddie is, and it's just It's like anybody can be a laddie, basically. In the end, it's like you define it how you want to. So it was like, well, I think it's like I was like, oh no, am I gonna get cancelled for this? And I did it, and I was like, oh, it went down quite well. They seemed to like it. I got laughs, which is the most important thing. It was all right, and it was brief, and then we got on with the rest of it. So, which was basically, yeah, the rest of it. And then and then we were all reading poems and the poetry books everywhere. And I was like, oh, because I passed the poetry books around. And I'm like, oh no, I've only got my notebook left. And I'm like, oh, I've got a poem in my notebook that I wrote. So I did that, but I didn't say I wrote this. So I did it, and everyone's like, ha 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 ha. And I'm like, oh, I didn't really get credit for that because happy Sunday. Cocky leaky made from leeks and, very cocky leeks, yes. Very cocky leeks indeed. Well, the thing is, I saw them making the soup and they cut up all the leeks and somebody put out the vast majority of the leeks went outside into the waste bin, and I was like, that's a lot of leeks to waste. That's a lot of leeks to waste. But that is all, yes, cancelled years ago. I was actually thinking about that. Have I already been cancelled? Because I don't have many friends anymore and nobody talks to me and I don't go anywhere. So it's very possible that it happened and I just didn't notice it happening. That could be what has happened to me. I wouldn't be at all surprised, really. It's just like, yeah. And so when we got there yesterday, though, to the host place, he was a little bit behind because he was doing all the cooking and everything and hadn't set up, and we waited for the chairs. But somebody came and brought the chairs and the tables in, and I he knocked on the door. He's like, oh, I was hoping more people are going to be here, because I answered the door because there was still cooking going on. So I got about half of the chairs and tables I carried in. But before that point, we had to take down a Christmas tree. A Christmas tree. It was a very nice Christmas tree. It was a gigantic, real Christmas tree, but it hadn't been taken down yet. It was like, well, we have to take that down before we set up. So there's the three of us trying to set up. Oh, yeah, the three of us trying to take down the Christmas tree. Oh, we took down that Christmas tree. We took it down good. That was probably cancelled, that Christmas tree. There was pine needles everywhere. But the lights had been twisted around, and it was a very dense, bushy Christmas tree. So the three of us, like, from the top and the bottom, and it was like, fine. It took ages and ages, and I was running around the Christmas tree trying to get them all out. And then at a certain point, they were sort of going in on one another, so it was like unknotting it. As somebody said, that it's a bit of a knot theory. It's like the Gordian knot, and somebody said we should just cut through it, and I think we should probably have cut through it because it took a long time. But at the time I'd finished doing that and putting up the chairs and tables, I was red in the face, and then the other guests came, and I was like, and I was just like staring like this, and somebody I hadn't seen for ages was like, are you all right? And I'm like, what? I was just completely out of it. Yeah. What was woke in 1970? I don't know. What was woke in 1970? That was just being nice and pleasant to people, and that's all that woke is. Being respectful, and what's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. Are you aware of social history and things that you should probably do better in the future? Yes, you are. Then you are indeed woke. Oh, I don't want to be woke. It's like, you don't want to be a respectful person and not horrible to people. Why ever not? So it's like the whole other stuff with the people. It's like, oh no, don't, oh yeah, cancel that. Anyway, I'm not going to say what I was going to say because I'm going to be, exactly. It is though. It is. It's not just, I didn't say being nice, did I? It's not that. It's being respectful and knowing social history and knowing the fundamental flaws in society and all the social problems and all the stuff that's happened that's caused people to be prejudiced against and it's just the systematic abuse of power, that sort of thing. So I won't go into it, but basically, are you a respectful person? Do you know your history? Then, my dear, you are probably woke, even if you don't want to be. And if you are, what of it? It's all very good. It might have been Mark that. Nothing was wrong with that. So I'm basically, the sort of person I am, if you didn't already catch wind of that, is somebody that doesn't like it when people are being prejudiced against other people and being absolutely awful. I got told off in a video because I said, "Oh my God!" It's like, "Oh, you're being so disrespectful. How dare you say that? You're taking the Lord's name in vain." It's like, no, I'm not. You don't know what God I'm talking about. Because you'd be talking about Zeus. How do you know which God I'm talking about? Because I don't believe in them anyway. Not one of them. Apart from maybe Inanna, who's I think Sumerian. Yes, Sumerian gods. They're all right. They're the good ones. Pan. Yes, Pan is a sort of god. Very minor god. Yes. Plays the pipes. Pan, Pan was woke. I'm sure Pan was woke, and Dionysus was definitely. Oh, he was right in there. Freedom of expression and all sorts was Dionysus, also known as Bacchus. Bacchus liked his backy. Bacchus liked doing stuff. The god of all the freedom of stuff. Well, yeah, it's just 1970. I don't know why anyone's bringing up 19. What's this? What's special about 1970? I don't know. It's there was a point, you know, that the whole millennium bug thing and everything reset to 2000 until they sorted it out. I think Philip was instrumental in making sure that didn't break everybody, and nobody even knew about it anymore because it was so successful in not ruining the whole world that everyone's like, well, nothing's happened then. It's like, well, it's because loads of people spent absolutely years sorting that out. But the same thing, even after 2000, if you didn't put your birth date in quite a lot of websites and stuff, did you? Ari Fingal last night. If you didn't put your birth in a lot of websites, they would reset it to, this happened loads of times, so it reset my birth date to the 1st of January 1970. I'm like, that's weird. It turns out that it's just, that's what it did. It's just, if you didn't put anything in, then it would just go plum, because nobody was born before that or after that. That was a sort of reset period. So there must have been something that happened on January the 1st, 1970, that reset the whole of society in a sort of, we're in an alternate dimension now. So what is woke? I've just spent like 10 minutes expressing what it is, Boheme. It's knowing about systematic oppressions and systems of government that have stopped people living their best lives years, and also the way that people are, and being very aware of injustice and social injustice and all stuff, and being and being going past that and acting in a way that you're not being a word came to mind. It began with the C, not being one of those, but it's very misogynistic. But that is the word that came to mind. Not being that would be a good start. Maybe not using that word would be a good start too. As I suspected, you don't exist. Nobody exists. Political sensitivity, that's good. Yeah, it's like, it's political correctness gone mad, as they used to say. But political correctness never went mad, because if it's correct, and everything's political, so you're just being all right about stuff. What the hell? Yeah, so it's, interesting. Are you horrible? Then you're probably not woke. Well, you might be, but you can work on it. It's just working on yourself and knowing what your own prejudices are as well. It does, exactly. Well, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't exactly mean that. It's like woken up to the problems in society specifically, really, and making sure that you don't do awful things to people. But all these people that are just very much against the woke culture are people that are very much against people that are different from themselves. It's like, oh, but we're middle class, and or if you're American, oh, but we're middle class. I don't know what an American middle class person sounds like. American middle class is not the same as British middle class as well. I think in America, middle class means the working man, the normal, everyday salt of the earth. And in Britain, it means a posho. It means somebody that's got a load of money and sends their children to posh schools, not necessarily private schools, but they might send them to a state state and independent grammar school thing that has special extra money, and or they might send them to the local comprehensive, but in a sort of ironic way. And that's what a middle class person is here, which is not the same. Anyway, that sort of person might be one of the liberal elite, the urban, it's not the urban liberal elite, that means a completely different thing. Whatever, the what's the word? Metropolitan. It's just weird that metropolitan and urban mean diametrically opposed things, and it both means that you live in a city. Can you be urban and metropolitan at the same time? One suspects not, even though they do mean the same thing, more or less. It's just like, oh, right. Like you have the Metropolitan Music Awards. It's like, what does that mean? It means it's a posh music award. It's like, oh, not the same as urban. It's like, no, because that's also another euphemism for something else. Is Sam Smith woke? I don't know. You'd have to ask Sam Smith themselves, wouldn't you? Yeah, so your level of wokeness very much depends on how much of a horrible person you are, and if you're going to be alright. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of people that are very, very aware of problems in particular parts of society, but not all parts of society. So they're very picky choosy about who they choose to be good to. And now I think that in order to be fully rounded as a person, you shouldn't really be discriminatory and prejudicial against any one group of society, and you should make them here, unless the person, right, the people that I think that you should probably not listen to are the people that are trying to oppress the other people. If there's some group of people that are like, you have to do what we say and you're all inferior to us, then they can go bugger off, basically. Yeah, so I've lost everybody. There's 2 people left. Me talking about wokeness has driven everything away, and everybody's gone. Because nobody likes anybody that's woke, even though you probably are, unless you're horrible. No, I'm not saying you're a hypocrite. Are you a hypocrite? No. So if you hate everyone equally, then you're maybe anti-woke. I don't know. I don't think that you should hate everyone indiscriminately. No, and that's definitely not what I'm saying. You've missed the point of what I'm saying entirely. What I'm saying is you shouldn't really support the people that are trying to oppress and conquer other people. But everybody else, yeah, that's all right. Everybody should live their life the way they should and would, as long as their lifestyle isn't making everybody else feel miserable and awful and oppressing them. That's really the only thing about that. So I've got 3 people now. Yay! 3 people that are still with me. And I should say that I don't really like Sam Smith's sartorial style, but that's just me. But yeah, it's just Sam Smith, interesting. I like their music, and I think they seem like a bit of a laugh, especially now. I think they might be sort of trolling everybody with their fashion style, but maybe they're just like wearing clothes that are a bit odd. And what's wrong with that? Yes, they're a bit sparkly, and haha, I mean, Elton John, Sam Smith and Elton John's style, when you start looking at it, isn't that dissimilar? Yeah, Elton John's like, haha, look at his wacky glasses and his big old feathery thing. And Sam Smith's, everyone like, ooh, Sam Smith, what are you wearing? Like, there's not much different, really, is there? Shiny, happy people, yes. Equally in investments. It'd say 5 for me. It doesn't say 5 for you. It says 4 for me. Anyway, yes, let's go off this. It's a very controversial subject. I'm being very controversial today, even though it really shouldn't be controversial that you don't be horrible to everybody and that you make yourself a force of good in the world. Now, I don't like toxic positivity. I don't think that going, oh, you have to be so positive and you can't say negative things about it. I don't think that's good. And especially if somebody says something negative and you're like, oh, don't say that. You're so toxic and you're so negative. I don't like that. I don't like toxic positivity and like, oh, if you wish it to be good, then it will be good and I will not have anyone say otherwise. That's not good. Obviously. Oh, don't be like that about Sam Smith. Sam Smith's got good music. Anyway, and I don't think toxic positivity is the way to go. Don't get me wrong. I think there's dissent and protest and saying negative things should be a thing, as long as that thing isn't designed to destroy other people. You know what I mean? Really? Okay, well, is that the case? Well, I think, Ollie, that you've got your own mind and you should do what you want and not blame it on other people. And I think that's goes without saying. If you want to be disruptive, but don't say it's somebody else's fault, because you've only got yourself. Exactly, Stephanie. If he is, then that's his problem, and don't get other people in trouble, because that's not very nice, is it? Nope, it's not very nice indeed. So, yeah, be disruptive if you want, but don't say that it's somebody else's fault. No. So, yeah, it's been a week. So, went out into the world and did speaking in front of people, and it was like all sorts. Not very much drinking, which is lucky. Didn't get into 140, but I did get a lift home. The weird thing is, though, if I'd have got public transport, I probably would have been home before the lift, because the lift went all around the houses and dropped other people. It was like a little bus service. Somebody very kindly drove all of us all the way from South London all the way to North London. It was everybody that was in the car, and there was IKEA furniture in the car as well, so we went everywhere there was to go. So it took longer than if I'd have just taken a bus, and I don't know whether the tube was still running. If it had been running, then I would have been home hours and hours before. But I'm still very grateful, because it's a bit of a awkward, annoying thing, the night bus and the night train. Yes, exactly. So the night bus and the night train, that's back. And also, I took the train down, the tube down, and it was so busy. Normally, the people that I normally visit on my Sunday. It's quite quiet. But it was the most packed I've ever seen. It was so busy. I was like, why is it so busy? It was like, it's Saturday night. It's in the middle of London. So it's probably a good thing that it's busy, because it's been very quiet for the last few years. But I was like, oh, there's people everywhere. Now, I did put a mask on because I'm a sensible person, but there's only one other person on the whole journey that did. And it was like the people in my face, like there was some bloke's bottom right there. I was sat there, and it was like, and he had a big backpack on. It had a big sort of ribbony thing pointing out from it. Somebody else like pushed it because that was in the way of. It was just so annoying. Do you? Oh, yeah, don't be disruptive unless, you know, if you are, then you are, but don't do it deliberately. But if you are accidentally, that's not a bad thing, because it is who you is, and is who you is. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Yeah, so, yeah. Oh, something else I discovered today, and I think I've heard them before, is the popular, not very popular combo, the Shags. Have you ever heard of them? They were like some sisters. Their father made them practice in the basement from instruments they didn't really know how to play their instruments. They pretended to practice when he went out, because he'd had a vision. His mother read his palm, I heard, and told him that his daughters were going to be they were going to be a very famous group, and so he decided that he was going to make them be a very famous group. So they recorded their do you it is, but I hadn't really. I listened to it today, and I was thought, I have heard some of this, but I didn't know I'd heard it. But I was listening to some of them, and the more you hear it, the more you're like, oh, that is interesting, because I don't know whether you've heard the yeah, exactly. It's not really outsider art, because they were trying to get inside, and they were trying, I think, to be great. But it's not bad. I think Frank Zappa and Kurt Cobain and various other people celebrated it and said, I think, apocryphally, whatever that is. Frank Zappa said that they were better than the Beatles. So there was a cover album of their stuff that says better than the Beatles. And I wouldn't say that, obviously. But I don't think they were bad. If you listen to the Velvet Underground stuff, it's... And Magnetic Fields, and also what they reminded me of when I was listening to it was... Oh, I can't remember what they're called. You know, on the chaise long, on the chaise long, on the chaise long, all day long, on the chaise long. Whatever. That sounded, to my ears, maybe my ears are off, but that sounded very much like the type of thing the Shags were trying to do. And they re-released I think Dot, well, what's her name? Anyway, Dot, who's one of them, started Wet Leg. That's it. They sound like Wet Leg. That's on the chaise long. It's very, very similar, really. And although Wet Leg are trying to go on what they're trying to do one tune at a time, whereas I think the Shags were doing several different tunes at the same time that maybe weren't destined in the normal course of events to be in the same song, but they were in the same song. It's like, oh, how many songs is this all in one go? When you're really spoiling us with this. I was like, I can feel an empathy with them because they're probably more musically talented than I am, for instance. But I'm like, well, I appreciate this. I appreciate this. I mean, obviously it was atonal and discordant and all the other things. There's a juxtaposition of different musical styles, but I liked it. And I'm not the only person, so there you go. I'm not the only person that likes it because, you know, many others before me have said that they are. You don't think so? It is. Well, I didn't say they were exactly like them. I said that Wet Leg is trying to make, you know, they're trying to do one tune at a time, Wet Leg. But it's a similar type. The actual songs, if you listen, you probably haven't listened to the two of them recently, but I was listening to them, and some of the songs are like Wet Leg, and they are like Magnetic Fields, and they're obviously all over the place. But if you, there's a lot of things wrong with these songs, let's be honest. But one thing they've got going for them is that they're there. And also, I think if they'd had a different sound engine, if they'd had like George Martin, who produced the Beatles, and the person that did David Bowie songs, I mean, David Bowie songs, if you listen to them without all the production, some of them are a little bit like, what's going on? But they're made in the studio, right? And I think if somebody had made these in the studio and sort of given them some direction, rather than their dad just popping down and going to the studio, can you just record my girls, and them going, what's going on, blah, 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 and then leaving it at the end of the day. If there'd been some sort of direction from the people producing it, and I don't think they did really have a producer, they just had somebody recording them when they went in, then maybe the genius would have been lost, because maybe the fact that it is all over the place is part of it. But I think, you know, they would sound more like songs. Anyway, there was a new song, is my point, newish, like in the last 10 years, called Banana Bicycle, which is one of the... They carried on making songs after they split up. Banana Bicycle does sound like a real song. It's still got some of the and it still sounds like one of their old songs, but it's got more of a, it's catchy. So look up Banana Bicycle. It's catchy. And I think you might like it. You might not, but yeah. But who am I to say? What is music? I'm certainly not a musicologist, as you can tell from anything that I've ever produced musically. But if you can even call it music, I think they've got more of a claim to be music than me. So, you know, there's a sliding scale. It's a spectrum, isn't it? Your ears hurt, but the more you listen, Mark, the more you listen, the more you'll be like, oh, I don't know what song you're listening to, but the philosophy of the world, it's like, and you listen to the cover version of it, and it's turned into a real song, and you're like, oh, right, okay. The cover version obviously sounds more like a real song than the original, but the original is the original. But, you know, in a way that people cover other people's songs and turn them into something completely different. Completely different. I heard somebody do a country music version of Hit Me Baby One More Time, and it was a completely different song. It wasn't better and it wasn't worse, it was just completely different. Exactly. And I think if you start to tune into it, and it's got sort of it's got sort of George Harrison feel to it. You'd probably disagree to that, but it's got, you know, if you listen to, like, there's some other styles of music that aren't Western styles of music that have got different things going on, and it comes together because you're expecting that. You know what I mean? Probably not. Anyway, go listen to the Shags, which is a musical treat. It's all over the place, but it's like genius. It's like complete chaos. It's like, what are you even doing? What is this thing? It's just new music. It's like I'm just thinking of that thing in Look Around You. What was it? I can't remember what it's, you know, the Kevin Eldon one. If you can remind me what it was. Macanenu, that one. Macanenu. It's like what music of the future would sound like. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Anyway, what have we talked about today? Today, the letter of today was woke, and the Shags, and Burns Night. Yay! Exactly. Macarenu. Yes, you will. It's just like, oh, exactly. Anyway, go and listen to some very strange music and make your day. If nothing else, it'll go, well, this is it. But people say if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I say if something's worth doing, it's worth doing. Just do it. Even if it's like, what is even this? It's like, you want to do it, just do it. Because you can't get better without trying it. You just do it and keep doing it and keep doing it. If it makes you happy, just keep. Don't have to be good first time, do you? Are they? Okay, yeah, bye, yeah. Have a good week. And I'm sorry that, you know, if you don't like the Shags, then that's what can be done with you. They're enthusiastic. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.